Walt Disney World just posted a record quarter, $10 billion in revenue, operating income up 20%, and somehow this is the story of a company falling apart. Attendance at the most visited theme park on Earth is shrinking. Guests are suing Disney over who gets to skip the line. And the man who ran the place for 2 decades just handed the keys to someone else. So how does a business break every financial record it has, while the people who actually go there feel like they're being robbed? For most of its history, Walt Disney World didn't need to think about competition. It was the biggest theme park resort on the planet, and it wasn't close. 4 parks, 2 water parks, dozens of hotels, an entire city built around one company's imagination. If you wanted the best version of a theme park vacation in America, there was really only one answer. That's changing. In May 2025, Universal Orlando opened Epic Universe, a $10 billion park built from scratch, its biggest expansion in company history. Analysts at MoffettNathanson projected Epic Universe could pull 1 million visitors away from Disney World over just 2 years, while helping push Universal Orlando's total attendance toward 27 million by 2026. For the first time in decades, Disney World had a rival that wasn't just adding a new ride. It was adding an entire fourth gate, with its own hotel, its own transportation, and its own reason to skip Magic Kingdom altogether. Universal didn't stop at one park either. It bundled Epic Universe, with its Super Nintendo World and Dark Universe lands, directly into its 2026 multi-day tickets, giving guests park-to-park access to 4 gates instead of Disney's traditional 4-park hopper setup. For the first time, a trip to Orlando didn't automatically default to Disney. Guests online started describing a new plan entirely, one vacation for Universal, one for Disney, no more trying to cram both into a single week the way they used to. Disney's answer wasn't to lower prices, it was the opposite. Walk through the numbers and you'll see it. Since 2019, Disney has methodically replaced everything that used to be free with something you now pay for. FastPass, once included in your ticket, became Genie Plus, then became Lightning Lane. In October 2025, Disney pushed Lightning Lane prices to new record highs, with the top-tier Premier Pass reaching as much as $449 per person per day. That's not a typo. That's more than some families used to spend on their entire ticket. By December, Disney had raised prices so often, so fast, that even the company hit what analysts started calling a pricing ceiling, a rare pause before the next hike. Magic Kingdom's peak day ticket crossed $209 for the first time. Annual passes climbed past $1,600. Parking, which used to be a footnote, now runs up to $60 a day if you want a spot close to the gate. The free airport shuttle that used to welcome families to Orlando? Gone. A Wall Street Journal investigation found that 74% of households now consider trips like Disney vacations financially out of reach. And of the people who said no to a Disney trip, 59% blamed the cost. Disney's own response was that a family of 4 could still vacation for around $3,000, so long as they skipped Lightning Lane entirely. Which is a strange thing to say about the product Disney spent the last 5 years building an entire business model around. And it isn't just the fees. Guests have spent the last 2 years watching Disney lean harder on capacity limits than ever before. Reports surfaced of Magic Kingdom's Main Street parade viewing areas reaching capacity and turning families away mid-visit. The kind of moment that used to be free and guaranteed, now rationed like everything else. Meanwhile, travel bloggers who track crowd data year over year describe a resort locked in a strange loop. Summers that feel emptier than they used to, wait times sitting at off-season lows, and yet the park's still packed wall-to-wall the moment a holiday or school break hits. Disney isn't struggling to fill the place. It's struggling to make guests feel like the money was worth it once they're inside. And here's the part that should worry Disney the most. It's working, financially. Guests are paying more per person per day than ever before. Per capita spending at domestic parks grew 4% in the most recent quarter. Disney has figured out exactly how to make less feel like more and charge you full price for it. But raising prices on the people walking in the door is one thing. What Disney did to the people who couldn't walk in the door at all is another. In May 2024, Disney rewrote its Disability Access Service, the accommodation that let disabled guests avoid standing in line for hours at a time. The new rules narrowed eligibility mostly to guests with developmental disabilities like autism, cutting out huge numbers of people with chronic pain, mobility issues, and other conditions who had relied on it for years. Disney framed it as a crackdown on abuse, citing a tripling of DAS registrations since 2019. Guests framed it as something else entirely. By early 2025, Disney was facing a class action lawsuit alleging the new policy violated disability law, on top of a separate discrimination complaint that, as of this year, has advanced past mediation into a formal investigation. A trade group study found that half of guests denied DAS said they'd visit Disney parks less often. 36% said they wouldn't come back at all. When Disney shareholders voted in March 2026 on a proposal asking the company to independently review the DA's changes, it failed. 95% voted no. The message from Disney's boardroom was clear. This isn't a mistake we're interested in fixing. If you're enjoying this one, subscribing genuinely helps more than you'd think. And there's no annual contract, no cancellation fee, no fine print. Just a button. So Disney is squeezing guests on price, squeezing disabled guests on access, and losing market share to a brand new rival next door. You'd expect the earnings to reflect that. They don't. Not even close. In August 2026, Disney reported its fiscal third quarter, and it was the best quarter Disney Experiences has ever had. $10 billion in segment revenue, up 10% year over year. Segment operating income jumped 20% to just over $3 billion. Global guest counts were up 4%. Domestic attendance, despite everything, rose 3%. Disney's own executives openly said they were performing significantly better than the competition, Epic Universe included. How do you lose customers to a brand new $10 billion theme park, get sued over accessibility, and still put up record numbers in the same 12 months? The answer is that Disney doesn't need everyone to keep showing up. It needs the people who do show up to spend more. And that's exactly the machine it's built. Fewer perks, higher prices, tighter restrictions, and a guest base large enough and loyal enough to absorb all three at once. That machine is now in new hands. On March 18, 2026, Bob Iger officially stepped down as CEO for the second time, handing the company to Josh D'Amaro, the man who had run Disney Experiences, the Parks and Cruises division, since 2020. It's worth remembering how the last handoff went. Iger's first pick to succeed him, Bob Chapek, lasted less than 3 years before Iger came back to reclaim the job himself, an embarrassing reversal that Disney's board spent years trying to avoid repeating. This time, they picked from inside the one division that had never stopped setting records, the one built entirely on charging guests more for less. In other words, Disney just put the architect of the pricing strategy in charge of the entire company. D'Amaro isn't inheriting a business that needs saving, he's inheriting the machine he built, and Wall Street is already asking him to run it harder. The company just raised its stock buyback target to $9 billion and committed to a $60 billion multi-year capital plan for Parks and Cruises, a bet that guests will keep paying, no matter how high the number gets. Which brings us to the actual question buried under all of this. Is Disney World falling apart, or is it working exactly as designed? Because from where guests are standing in a longer Lightning Lane line they can't afford to skip, a shorter DAS list they can't qualify for, and a brand new Universal Park pulling their friends away for the first time in decades, it sure looks like collapse. But from the boardroom, this is the best version of Disney World that's ever existed. Revenue up, margins up, buybacks up. The uncomfortable truth is that a company can hollow out the experience for its most loyal customers and still call it a record quarter, as long as the spreadsheet doesn't measure what it feels like to be there. Disney didn't lose control of the Magic Kingdom, it just decided who still gets to afford it,